I'm Nathan Woolridge, and I'm a pre-service educator, which means I'm currently in school for my Bachelor of Education. Um, and currently I'm working on this documentary, which focuses on outdoor education. And the whole purpose is to show just the different ways that we can do education and how there's so much here in like our backyard.
I always dreamed of living in this city, and in 2016, that dream became a reality for me. I didn't quite understand the full scope of what this city was going to mean to me over the next few years. And I am just one of over 1 million people who live here, not counting the countless amount of people who visit this city every year and fall in love with all that it has to offer. There's no doubt why Calgary tops many international lists for being one of the best places to live. Not only is it one of the sunniest major cities in Canada, but it is also home to so many amazing public spaces. From the rivers to the hiking trails to the biking paths, Calgary has just a diverse amount of spaces within the city. And that's without saying the amazing backdrop that the city has, being so close to the Rocky Mountains and so many other diverse landscapes. It's such a unique place to explore. There are so many public parks and just places where you can connect with nature and your neighbors as well. I see this city as a space for us to build something different and to connect back to nature. Together in this community, we can build places like schools that can help really tap into what this city truly has to offer. The COVID-19 pandemic has been a difficult time for all of us, but has also given me an opportunity to pause and reflect on my own life. I reconnected with nature, and I started to think about how I could combine my passion for both the environment and teaching. This led me to explore new ways of combining both passions, which has given me a newfound purpose in my life. What can our schools look like moving forward?
Primarily, I kind of came across this philosophy while in school. We did a lot of land-based learning and getting outdoors, and I remember in some of the earliest days of my degree, we kind of just went outside and we were just like in the forest, and I remember being like, this is nothing like the experiences that I had in school before. So the more that we did getting out to Nose Hill and Fish Creek Park and just taking advantage of all the different outdoor spaces in Calgary, the more I was just like really getting more connected with the outdoors, and just spending that time figuring out that that our conceptions of knowledge needs to be more well-rounded. And where I've felt that personally is outside through these experiences. And the more I thought about it, I thought about how it really does seem that outdoor education addresses a lot of the things that we need to address.
Outdoor education is an invaluable tool for helping individuals of all ages to address a variety of needs. It can provide a safe and engaging environment in which to learn, problem solve, and foster greater connection with others. It also helps promote physical and mental wellness. Through outdoor education activities, individuals can gain a better understanding of their environment, develop leadership skills, and build resilience. For years, educators have been looking for ways to make learning more enjoyable and engaging. One way to do this is by incorporating nature into the classroom. By taking advantage of outdoor activities, field trips, and bringing nature into the spaces, outdoor education also helps shape future leaders who will grow to appreciate and protect the outdoors. Outdoor education is also a powerful tool to promote truth and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. It can help reconnect people with the land and build relationships. Educators can create meaningful learning experiences that are both educational and enjoyable.
I've spent a lot of time with people here in Calgary who are doing some really cool, amazing things. And I find every time I meet with someone else, I'm sparked by this whole other, by their own passion that they put into outdoor education, land-based learning. And so it's kind of been a treat to sit down with a lot of people on and off camera. And there's places like CPAWS that I kind of went to, walking into it not knowing what I was going to learn, and finding people who are like-minded and just as passionate about this space, and just how much connections that we have to nature and the world around us, and how we can make the world a better place by inspiring youth to care about being outside, and to care about not only their health and wellness, but the overall well-being of the entire planet. So talking with people like that, really, it's super promising. It makes me excited to be a teacher and to take all these little lessons I'm learning from people like them, and being able to use that.
I grew up outside, begrudgingly. I must put that out there clearly. I was the kid that went to camp, lost her fork and lost her mind, but my mom didn't give up. She continued to bring me to Girl Guide camps and travel opportunities across the province, and I began to crave it, and it became a part of who I am, being outside. It's a place, actually, still to this day, that I go when I need a lift, when I need a reminder of how good life is. I get outside.
It's thrilling because it's a unification. It is such a connector, an anchor, so much part of what it means to be human. I love my work with adults because we encourage so much play, and nature play is probably my most passionate pursuit, because play is what's deemed children's work, and it is. I'm not arguing, but it needs to be all of our work. And there's no better way to get into nature, to make those connections, than to play.
Our big goal for everybody, right, is to provide that nature connection and then that inspiration to want to protect nature that we all rely on. And so we know from research that the younger that kids have that opportunity to connect to nature, the more they're gonna feel like that's part of their identity, that they have that connection, and it's better for their health growing up being connected to nature. So we want to provide those nature experiences, as early as possible, as well as that kind of just building that love for animals, for water, for ecosystems throughout all ages. And, some of the more recent research is really focused around the importance of nature connection to our health. And so at any age, if someone hasn't had that opportunity, whether they're, in grade 6 or they're an adult and they haven't really had that opportunity in their life to connect to nature, we can help provide those first experiences and provide those resources and that knowledge so that they can then continue to go outside and connect to nature for their well-being, And that will really be for the well-being of the planet as well, because the more we feel connected to nature, the more we'll want to protect it. And so it's, we're focused on youth because we have that opportunity to really set the stage for their entire life and set them up with the skills and the desire to be connected to nature, to go out and to take environmental action.
Especially when it comes to conservation and just having kids connect to the outdoor world, because that's like the number one thing that research shows helps to create an environmental steward and create eco action is having a connection to the outside world, whatever that looks like. But yeah, I just like worry about our natural environment and how we're taking advantage of it. And a lot of that stems from, thinking about my legacy and my son's future, my grandchildren's future, if he so chooses to have them. So that's definitely a huge part of it.
I found myself asking the question of why this work is incredibly valuable and important.
Yeah, we have all these different themes based on important topics to CPAWS and to schools and to Albertans. So we have different ecosystems that we focus on in Alberta, like forest ecosystems and grasslands. We have different species that we focus on, particularly species at risk in Alberta. It's really important for CPAWS to help get the word out about specific ecosystems and species that need our help, and do that again in a fun and positive, hopeful way. We all know through research and through our own experiences as educators that doom and gloom doesn't help inspire people to connect to nature and to take environmental action. And it all comes down to CPAWS, to environmental action, right? Our mission is to protect our land and waters, and we know we can't do that alone. We need everybody working together, taking small actions to do that. And so that is at the root of every program theme. And then the themes might just be, a way to bring it in a fun or timely way. So again, our Climate Game Changers program is a really timely one, that climate action is kind of on the minds of a lot of people in Alberta. There is a lot of climate anxiety amongst youth. And so it's important that we can bring in a program that helps them understand what's going on and what their role could be, as well as the other amazing positive actions that are already happening to help develop that, positivity, that hope that we can turn this around, all working together.
I love the work we're doing in communities. In terms of places, oh my gosh, it's so exciting to take kids to Yamnuska, a mountain place where they may not have even been to and live an hour from. But some of the most endearing work I've done lately has been in public parks that you or I know that we never connected with major nature places. Sandy Beach, Confederation Park, Nose Hill. These are all like incredible places that I've just blossomed as an educator getting to know.
CPAWS is well known for their ability to connect and engage people to curriculum, and I wanted to find out how they do that.
We always go to a body of water and we do a pond dip. And the students go into groups and then they will look for invertebrates, they'll do water testing to kind of bring to life the messaging of how human impacts, both in the city and out of the city, affect our water. And
That's character.
it has character. So they have like little magnifying glasses. We call this our invertebrate extractor.
Right.
It's a turkey based.
Yeah.
And then we have these ice cube trays, which we call our isolation chambers. They're ice cube trays. And then we have other like magnifying glasses and identification sheets that they can find, common invertebrates that are in the area, which are very specific to Alberta. My favorite one that we found is the giant water bug, which is this one right here. The giant water bug is like the size of my hand, And it is the most terrifying thing, but also the most exciting thing to find when you go.
Kids find this?
The kids found it
That's
twice. Once it was in Okotoks and once it was in Fish Creek Park. And both times I was like, just so stoked.
Yeah.
We are so like trees as human beings, and we can talk about the connections of skin and blood and vessels and our need for vitamin D and our like sunshine and what we produce in terms of beauty. Like, there's so many ways to be a tree, and I think the way we do that by getting kids outside to one of our program staples is meet a tree, and you know, we encourage them to do it blindfolded, so a sensory experience, but after that blindfold comes off or they open their eyes, they're asked to, you know, really get to know the tree, and how they do it is completely theirs. But that's when curriculum comes alive.
We definitely see a lot of students, for example, who have never really been out to a park, or, you know, their families don't go hiking or camping or anything like that. So CPAWS is often the first hike that youth have gone on, which is a really important role for us and a privilege for us to be in that position. And so we do often see a lot of folks that, you know, don't want to leave the paved path in Fish Creek, for example, because they've never stepped on grass or they're afraid of the ants or something like that. So it is often that at the start of the program, and then, you know, we don't necessarily make waves of change every time, but it's kind of that exposure therapy, right? So if you have a little bit of exposure to it today, a little bit more tomorrow, and you get more comfortable with it, then you'll have those really positive experiences.
How can we create positive experiences between young people and the outdoors?
And that's something we really focus on. Again, positivity here at CPAWS, but in a different way, positivity of the outdoor experience. So our guides are really cognizant of making sure that everybody's really comfortable, they're warm, they have what they need. We're staying, you know, moving and staying active, because we don't want to have students have a miserable day, whether it's their first time out in nature, which is even worse, or even if it's not their first, but then, you know, having a really rough day because they weren't prepared or the weather was, you know, much uglier than we were hoping. We don't want to turn them off of nature forever. So that's a really important role that we have, is to make sure the group is prepared and comfortable, so it's a positive experience and they'll want to keep coming outside.
It's about inquiry. My greatest days on the trail have been completely based around questions. I have knowledge to bring, and definitely I convey it. But I really like kids to lead, and gamification and costumes and questions are the way and the tools with which to do that. And we are really good at that. Actually, I have friends that work in provincial parks, national parks, and that's what CPAWS is known for, is our like get in, hands-on, bring yourself, bring, you know, lose your inhibitions, dive in and play. That's really what we're good at. And curriculum comes alive when it's, I want to say, when you dive into it instead of, here you go, read this. Let's play. Absolutely.
Also helps me to relate to the kids a lot more, because I can understand where they are developmentally, maybe current events, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. Like, it sounds stupid, but it's just like being relevant is also really important being as a teacher, because then the kids are like, oh, she's like kind of cool, not like being a dinosaur or something like that, you know?
With the pandemic heavily influencing so much about what we do, how did it affect the last few years in outdoor education?
But folks are always asking us to take them out into nature and provide a nature walk. So that's something we've been able to offer, as well as our community walks and more kind of schoolyard and local community programs. That's really come on during the pandemic, where at first no one was able to take buses. There was a lot of financial challenges, a lot of just different barriers increased because of COVID. And so we started doing a lot more programs where we could meet students at their schools and then take them on a walk right from the school door, which reduces a lot of barriers for the schools. Really looking at our parks program, that's been one of our signature ones, especially with new Canadians, is wanting to get to know the parks in Alberta. So we're really taking a look at that one right now because it had quite a colonial lens and just a very government, like, these are the types of parks that we have. And it's really important for us to decolonize that and show the true history of why we have these amazing parks, right? This was taken from Indigenous peoples. We didn't start the parks as a country in a good way. It's important for people to know that and then look towards the future. How can we make parks more just? How can we make everybody feel included and safe when they go out to a park, have the resources and the knowledge they need in order to safely and enjoyably be out in the parks? So that's a big one that we're taking a look at. We're looking at all of our programs to work on making them more inclusive and accessible and bring in truth and reconciliation where it applies to each program. But our Explore Parks is a big one that we're working on that with.
I've been able to learn so much through this experience, and I just wanted to break down everything that I've been able to soak in these last few weeks.
I've learned from the people at CPAWS just how important collaboration is when you're doing something like this, and how they have to work with so many partners and different people to make things happen. And so that's really that's been a real big thing for me, but also seeing just how just by doing certain engaging things that can really make a difference by being a good pull for students to actually care about these things and the things that we're doing. So it was just really cool to meet people who are doing that work and are just so excited. And it was really cool to see. For me, it showed me what is possible and that you can get people to care about our natural world and to make the world a better place. So to see people who are already doing this type of work is amazing.
CPAWS!
CPAWS.